Mic check. Mic check. Make sure my mic sounds right. Restart the computer. Let's see how we sound. Let me get this mic situated, family. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. How I sound now? Mic check, 1 2 1 2. How I'm sounding, family? Mic check, 1 2. Give me a 1 in the chat if I'm clear, or if I'm sounding far away and fuzzy. Sound muffled, Cosmon? Let me get it right. Let's get this mic situated. Microphone check, 1 2 1 2. Yeah, mic check. Let me see if this one sounds better or not. All right. Still sounding muffled. Let me get it situated. Hold up. What else we got here? Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. We're gonna get it situated, family. Just waiting to hear back the playback. Yo. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Oh, that sound like it's it right there. Check, 1 2 1 2. That sound like it's it right there, family. Situated, family. Give me a 1 in the chat if I'm clear. If I'm crystal clear now. Yes, family. So let me run the blood clot rhythm. Chiming in, I see y'all coming to the chat. I see y'all coming in, family. Peace to the righteous gods and goddesses. Support Shalom. On the ones and twos. You know how we do. You know how we dizzle around these parts. You know what I mean? You see the title. We drop the rhythm. Let me lower the rhythm. It's a blood clot vibes. Yes, family. You know what I mean? In a couple days, boy back at it. Salute to the righteous gods and goddesses. Gods and Naravinian goddesses. Gang, gang. Create a gang, gang in the building. What we got in the chat? Let's see what we got in the chat so far. He's saying, fake this, Nazarene. I see you. Peace to the righteous God. I see you, King. Mahalia, where's his sister? Imam, Messiah, Snoopy, Messiah. I see the gang chiming in. Wise Flows, good family. It's going down tomorrow night. Another episode. We're dropping the episode tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Time in. Salute, Wise Flow. Where's it? True Beauty, where's it, sister? Where's it? Big up yourself, yeah? Snoopy, where's it, big man? Cosmo Cal in the building. Y'all make sure to like, subscribe to Cosmo Cal TV, the big homie right there. You know what I mean? Be laying it down, putting it down for the last couple of goddamn weeks. You dig? Big things are going. Yeah, my camera going crazy. Let me situate that real quick. Let me situate that. You know what I mean?
Bitter sweet herbals. What it tastes is bitter, but the results are sweet. Bittersweetherbals.com.
Run the rhythm.
Bitter sweet herbals. What it tastes is bitter, but the results are sweet. Bittersweetherbals.com.
Yes, family, make sure to get your bitters as we vibe on out. Let me let the rhythm play low key. You know how we do, let the rhythm run. Let the vibes are going, yeah? So you know how we just start these sessions with the vibes. You can't have a vibe if you don't have a burner split, you know. Yes, I. This Hebrew Israelite burn weed. Junk Mail, where you say? My name Junk Mail, where you say, big man? Big up yourself. What's the name of what? What's that you're talking about? Big up yourself. Cruz, what's good, Cruz Collins? What you say? What you say, Judah? What you say, Israel? Shalom, child of the creator of all. You know, where you say, just me? I see you, King. I see the family chiming in. Where you say, Lawrence? Big up yourself. Lodge up yourself, yeah? Shout out to Shannon. Peace to the righteous God right here. Hey, man, y'all see this shirt right here? Oaspe Knowledge, y'all see that? The brother on the screen is the one who be doing the shirts. Holla at him. You know what I mean? For a decent price, he'll hook you up. Gang, gang. We got the gang, gang on the shoulders. You know what I mean? Gang, gang. The brother's dope, yo, with the apparel. Chime into the God. You know what I mean? Yes, son. Yes, Snoopy. Holla at Shannon in the chat. That's him. That's what make the shirts. So now, what the topic is, what we talking about today? What we talking about? What we chat about? The start of the Hebrew calendar and the timeline of Adam to Noah. See, the beautiful thing about the stance that we take is that we deal with timeline. And once you put everything on the timeline, it changes the game. You know what I'm saying? Now, there is actually a biblical timeline, a historical timeline that they give for the creation that they give for Adam and Eve. And we're going to touch on that. Class is in session, exactly, no doubt. Let me see if I can get this camera to stop fiddling. Hold on, let me goddamn do something right quick. Get that camera to stop. Doing what it dizzle. Yeah, we're about to get to it, though. We're about to get into it. So I'm about to touch on this timeline to show you that once you see the timeline and where everything fall into play at, it's like, damn, how did I ever take this serious? It throws off everything. All right, let me share my screen. We'll just get started like that. Screen going crazy right now. Hold on, let me cut that. So y'all ain't got to see that craziness. All right, share screen. Let me get ready to share the screen. Window. Bang. Let's rock. Let's kiss E-Rock. Yeah, this thing going crazy. Hold up. See if I can goddamn get it to get right. Mic check, mic check. All right, family. All right, let me share my screen. Mic check, mic check. Make sure I'm still heard. Let me share my screen. All right, let's get into it, yo. So, like I said, Joe, this is what we're dealing with right here, man. The timeline from Adam to Noah and the flood. This is what we're dealing with right here. Time of creation and all that, right? So now, I pulled this out a couple of times in a debate and just general conversation to show that they actually have a starting point for creation. So if you're a Hebrew Israelite, you know what I mean? You got to acknowledge this timeline right here. Now look, this is Yale University. This is their library. And they write, it says, look, I'm going to read the purple. The starting point of the Hebrew chronology is the year 3761 BC, the date of the creation of the world as described in the Old Testament. So right there, they have a starting point for when God said in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. There's a starting point. There's actually a date for that. And that's 3761 BC, which would be on the Hebrew calendar, the year 5784. That's the year that we're in right now. And it's interesting because even if you look at the year 5784, that's not even a complete 6,000 years. We're in the fifth day of creation. God created man on the sixth day. So it's a lot of inconsistencies when you're dealing with the timeline and the creation. We're going to expose that. Been exposing it. So now if we start from 3761 BC as the time of creation of the heavens and the earth, and also the creation of Adam, we can historically track the timeline and the descendants of Adam. Now, Genesis chapter 5, it states, verse 1, this is the book of the generations of Adam, in the day that God created man. In the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and he blessed them and called their name Adam in the day that they were created. So here, Adam is collectively called. Male and female is collectively called Adam here. See that? And notice in this verse, God stated that he created them. He didn't say us in this instance. He said he. See that? Look what verse 3 states. And Adam lived 130 years and begot a son in his likeness and after his image, and he called his name Seth in replacement of Abel. So Adam, if Adam was born in 30, if Adam was created or formed in 3761 BC, that means 130 years after that, Seth would have been born, which is 3631 BC. That would have been the birth of Seth, right there. So Adam was born in 3761 BC or created, and then his son Seth was born 3631 BC. Verse 4. In the days of Adam, after he had begotten Seth in the year 3631 BC, were 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. So after Adam had Seth in 3631 BC, 800 years, he began sons and daughters. Now let's do the math to that, right? So 3631 BC to 2831 BC is 800 years, and those are the descendants of Adam's children. Right? And then look what it states. Verse 5, and all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. So this is the timeline of Adam right here. Adam lived from 3761 BC to 2831 BC. That's 930 years. That's the timeline of Adam. Now, let's put this in perspective. That's dealing with Adam and Seth for a minute. Now let's get to the timetables. Let's get to the time chart, because we're going to make it make sense. Now, this is the timetables of prophecy. This is from the creation of man, from the Oaspe timeline to the present timeline. So this is we're going to go off the timeline that the Oaspe shows to show you where the biblical timeline fits in. So for those who read the Oaspe and familiar with it, already knows that time is divided in arc cycles of 3,000 years. So the Oaspe has the first arc cycle, the second arc cycle, the third arc cycle after the creation of man. And that's how you keep track using the Oaspe's timeline. So in the first arc cycle, you have what? Creation of man, as you see right here. Hold on, let me move this. As you see right there, you see the earth, and it says the time of the creation of man, the arc of one. But this is the first arc cycle. So man is created. Now the arc cycles are being numbered. This is how you keep the timeline of history. So you got the first arc cycle, the second arc cycle, and the third arc cycle. So this is the earth in the first arc cycle, the time of creation. In the 10th arc cycle, you see it's called the first era of civilization. The 17th arc cycle is called the time of the flood, the sinking of the continent of Pan. And then the 25th arc cycle is the present day, the arc of Cosmon, where we're at in our present time. So here we have a time chart. Right? So now, here's the same time chart with the 3,000 years added to it, so you can see the scale of what we're dealing with coming from the Oaspe's time chart. Because we're going to use this and then reference the biblical timeline within it. So here you have the arc cycles of 3,000 years. So from the first arc cycle to the 17th arc cycle, that's 48,000 years. And then from the 17th arc cycle to the 25th arc cycle is 24,000 years, giving you a total of 72,000 years, right? So basically, the Oaspe is letting you know that from the time of the creation to the flood is 48,000 years. And then from the flood to our present time is 24,000 years. So from the creation of man to our present time is 72,000 years. Just using a general basis of mathematics to show you that even in the Oaspe, it gives you a more grander scale of men being on the earth compared to the Bible, when it states that God created the heavens and the earth in 3761 BC. Now, here's the same arc cycles with the time, with the time chart on it, the BC and the AD, so you can get an idea. So now look at this. Up top is the number of arc cycles from the first, second, all the way coming to the 25th down here. And at the bottom is from the BC to the Common Era. So let's look at this first arc cycle. Let's zoom in, right? We see up here it says first arc cycle. We see the Earth, we see the timeline, and then we come down, we see the year, 71,553 BC. This is where the Oaspe plates the time of the creation of man in 71,553 BC. So with that, look at that time period that the Oaspe placed the creation of man in comparison to the 3761 BC. Now, this is the first arc cycle after the creation of man, right? Now, when we come down to this next chart, which is the same chart, we're going to move to the 23rd arc cycle that you see down here. So we were at the first arc cycle. Now we're 23 arc cycles in from the creation of man. We're 23 arc cycles in. So now this is the arc. This is the 23rd arc cycle. Now when we scoot down, we're going to go to the 23rd arc cycle. Same chart, just with the arc cycles and the years. So when we squeeze into the 23rd arc cycle, let's scoot in, right? You see the 23rd arc cycle up here, 23rd arc cycle. And you see the Earth on the timeline in the arc cycle. And then when we scroll down, look at the date that they have for the arc cycle. It says 3953 BC to 1553 BC. That's the length of the 23rd arc cycle from here to here. So notice the year is 3953 BC. So within this time period, within the 23rd arc cycle, is when the biblical creation on the Hebrew calendar is taking place, right? That's 3761 BC. Now, this is the 23rd arc cycle. Between the 23rd and the 24th arc cycle is when God created the heavens and the earth based off the timetables of prophecy in the Oaspe. So I'm showing you how inconsistent the biblical timeline really is, while the Oaspe is showing you where the inconsistency lies. Now, this is the 23rd arc cycle. Let's stretch out the 23rd arc cycle. Here go the 23rd arc cycle stretched out. This is the 23rd arc cycle stretched out. And what do we see? The 23rd arc cycle is 2,400 years, called the Arc of Spita. And that's from 3953 BC to 1553 BC. That's 2,400 years, the length of the arc cycle. Now, within this arc cycle, being the 23rd arc cycle, is when God said, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This is where the Hebrew calendar starts. There goes 3761 BC, time of creation, time of Adam, right? Let's go back up and validate that real quick. See that? Let me come back up. Right here, coming back to the source. What does the source say? The starting point of the Hebrew, right here. You want to read that? Oh, the starting point of the Hebrew chronology is the year 3761 BC, the date of the creation, the day for the creation of the world as described in the Old Testament. So as described in the Old Testament, right here is when the biblical God said in the beginning, he created the heavens and the earth. So it falls within 23 arc cycles from our creation is when your God starts creating. Inconsistent. Not only that, we got another source right here. This is an actual calendar. This is the actual Hebrew calendar, right? We're in the month of Adar, which is from March to April. And look at the year. Right there. There you go. 5784. That's the year of the Hebrew calendar. So we're not even 6,000 years old in creation, according to the Hebrew calendar. We're only 5,784 years in creation. So that time period is right here. 3761 BC is where it starts. That's 5,784 years ago. It'll bring you to 3761 BC. And this is on the Hebrew calendar right here. See that? In real time. So the Hebrew chronology starts in the year 3761 BC. So if that's and God created the heavens and the earth all within that year. Because I already exposed that he didn't take 1,000 years to create man. Because if he took, now keep in mind, look, if God took 1,000 years to create man, that means man wouldn't even be created yet, because it's not 6,000 years. Man was created on the sixth day. If a day is 1,000 years and he created the heavens and the earth within 6 days and rested on the seventh, he's still within the fifth day, because it's the fifth day is the 5,000th year. So we're in the fifth day, 5,784 years. So we're 784 years within the fifth day. We didn't even get to the sixth day where God said, let us make man, male and female. We're not even there yet according to the Hebrew calendar. And that's only if you use the 6,000 year terminology. So regardless of if you use it or if it's literal, you duped both ways. So if you do say, nah, God didn't create the heavens and the earth in 6 literal days, he created it in 6,000 years. If you go with that narrative, then you got to admit that it's not even 6,000 years yet. So how can man shouldn't even be on the planet right now? It should just be animals. Because on the fifth day, that's when God created the animals. And we're in the fifth day right now. We're 784 years within the fifth day of creation. So after the fifth day, on the sixth day is when God said, let us make man. So man shouldn't even be walking the planet right now. And that's if you use the 6,000 year narrative. So like I said, you stuck either way. I got you both ways. I got you chess, boy. This is chess, not checkers. So if you go with the 6,000 years, I'm going to just hit you with that. Now, if you admit that, because y'all always quick to say God could do everything. So if God created the heavens and the earth in 6 literal days, that means Adam was created in the year 3761 BC. That's when Adam was created. That's when Adam was created. Right? So if that's when Adam was created in the year 3761 BC, that's when the timeline begins. So Adam had Seth in the year 31 BC. That's when Seth was born. So Adam was born 3761 BC. Seth was born 3631 BC. And the days of Adam was 930 years. So 3761 BC minus 930 brings you to 2831 BC. That's the death of Adam. See that? 2831 BC. So Adam would have died roughly up in here. See that? So this is the 23rd arc cycle stretched out from the creation of a man, Adam, to Noah. So from Adam to Noah, see, Noah was born in the year 2795 BC. We're going to get to that. Let's scroll down. We're going to get there. Let's go to verse 6. And Seth lived 105 years and begot Enos. Seth to Enos, 3631 BC to 3526 BC equals 105 years, which would make Enos being born in the year 3526 BC. That's when Enos would have been born. Now keep in mind, we put in the literature, we put in biblical literature and historical timelines to show you that if this is true, these men would have been walking the earth at this particular timeline, and it's inconsistent with history. Because wasn't there one of these niggas walking the earth during this time period of 3526 BC? There was no Enos walking around. There was no Adam running around in the year 3761 BC. That's the Nakada period and the Ubaid period. So now, look at this. Verse 7. And Seth lived and he begot Enos 807 years, and he begot sons and daughters. So 3526 BC to 2719 BC equals 108 years, and Seth begat children. Seth begat children. Verse 8. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. So Seth was born in the year 3631 BC, and he died in the year 2719 BC. So Seth died in the year 2719 BC. All within here. Right? Let's scroll down. Look at this. And Enos lived 90 years, and he begot Canaan. And Canaan was born in the year 3436 BC. That's when Canaan was born. Enos to Canaan is 35 to 26 BC. 34 to 36 BC equal 90 years. So Canaan was born 34 36 BC. Now let's show these numbers on the chart. So this is the 23rd arc cycle. Now keep in mind, all this is taking place within the 23rd arc cycle after the creation of man. This is the 23rd arc. Where you see the earth right here, that's the 23rd arc cycle. Keep in mind, man was created in the first arc cycle, 71,553 BC. But they got it placed at 3761 BC at the creation of man. That's way off. If you want to cross compare the two, if you're doing cross comparison, which one would be more logical? Man being created during 3761 BC or man being created roughly 71,553 BC? See that? Now let's scroll down. Now let's show it. This is it right here. Boom, look at this. Look at this. Let me scroll down. Now look at the date. Let me scroll up. Up here are the names. You see Adam. You see Seth, Enos, Canaan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, Noah, and then you see Shem, Ham, and Japheth. All these right here have a beginning date, a born date, using 3761 BC as the beginning of creation and the creation of man, and then dating them based off what the biblical narrative gives us up here. Right? So we come back to the chart. Let's look at Adam. Let's come down to Adam. Adam was born in 3761 BC, the time of creation. That's when Adam was born. Now let's scroll back up. Now let's follow the line right here. This is where Adam dies at, right here. Come down. Come down. Right here. 2831 BC is the death of Adam. But when we place this in the history of real time, look where this places us. Adam died during the early dynastic and old kingdom of Egypt. How can that be? They shouldn't even be existing yet. Now, let's go to Seth. Look at Seth. You see Seth? Seth was born where? 31 BC, right there. See that? That's Seth. You got Enos. When Enos was born, 3526 BC, right there. Now we at where we at? We at Canaan. When Canaan was born, 3436 BC. That's when Canaan was born, right? Now let's come back to the Bible. Canaan was born when? 3436 BC. Enos to Canaan, 90 years, 3526 BC to 3436 BC. We put everything on the timeline over here. Verse 10. And Enos lived after he begot Canaan 815 years, and he begot sons and daughters. So from 3526 BC to 2701 BC, which is 825 years, Enos begot children. Now look, and all the days of Enos was 905 years, and he died. So Enos lived from 3526 BC to 2611 BC. Now when we go to the chart, let's look at Enos. This is Enos right here. You see him right here. Third from Adam, or second from Adam. And then you see the date, 3226 BC. Let's come back up to Enos. Let's follow his line. Let's follow his lineage right here. We come down. Boom. 2611 BC. But I'm showing, look at the time period that they dying in. This is the old dynastic and old kingdom in the historical timeline. They should even be in existence yet. Right? Let's go to Canaan. Let's keep it moving. Now look, Canaan lived 75 years and he begot Mahalalel. Mahalalel was born 3456 BC. We come to the chart. We see Mahalalel right there. Let me widen up. We see Mahalalel right there. We come down. 3456 BC. That's the year he born. We follow his line right here. And he died in the year 2561 BC. This is when the patriarchs of Adam lived and died when we placed them on a historical timeline. But if you notice, This can't make no sense because look at the time period. This would have been early dynastic Egypt and Old Kingdom, and prior to this, their born dates would have been the Nakata time period. The Nakata first, second, and third would have been occupying their birth dates, their born dates. Canaan to Mahalia, 3526 BC to 3456 BC equals 70 years. Verse 13. And Canaan lived, and he begot Mahalia, 840 years, and he begot sons and daughters. So from 3456 BC to 2616 BC equal 840 years, Mahalia had children. Verse 14. And all the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. So 910 years from 3436 BC to 2526 BC is the year that Cain reigned. All this. So he would have reigned during the Nakata period, coming into pre-dynastic of the Old Kingdom of Egypt. So you know this shit is off. Way off. Mahalia lived 65 years and he begot Jared. Jared. So Jared was born in the year 3371 BC. Jared was born in the year 3371 BC. When we come to the chart, we see Jared right there. You see him right there. We come down, you see his birthday. Oh, I forgot to change it on here. But nonetheless, the birthday is there, 3371 BC. You see 3371 BC right here. Now this is Jared was, but now keep in mind, Jared was the days, according to Enoch, this was the days when the 200 angels fell on Mount Hermon in the book of Enoch. This is the days that happened during his day, the days of Jared. So in 3761 BC, coming on down is when the fallen angels would have came to the earth, which were the precursors of the flood. So this is Jared. Jared was born in 3371 BC. Now, Jared was born 3371 BC, verse 16, and Mahal lived after he begot Jared 830 years, and he begot sons and daughters. So 830 years is from 3371 BC to 2541 BC. Verse 17, and all the days of Mahal were 895 years, and he died. So look, from 3456 BC to 2561 BC is the length of Mahal years. Mahal, yeah. So right here, that's his born date, 3456 BC right here. Coming back up, follow his track, his timeline, coming down right here, brings us to what? 2561 BC. That's when he died. But look at that. He died during the Old Kingdom of Egypt. So he would have seen armor. He would have seen all the... Adam would have seen armor. All these niggas would have seen who would have came from their loins. Now look, verse 18. And Jared lived 162 years, and he begot Enoch. Now look, we got the birthday of Enoch. Enoch was born 3229 BC. When we come to the chart, who we see right there? We see Enoch. Come down. When is Enoch born? 3229 BC, right? That's when Enoch is born. Y'all know about Enoch. You got the book of Enoch. Enoch talks about the days when the fallen angels came, how the fallen angels interbred with man, creating mighty men of renown. The fallen angels taught men how to smelt and metal iron to create swords and weapons of war. Taught mortals how to charm, women how to charm, and the angels taught. So even in the book of Enoch, it shows you that the angels came down and taught men and interbred with men, and they came during the days of Jared. The fallen angels came during the days right here, Jared. Say Jared and Enoch. So Jared, they came between 3371 BC to the birth of Enoch, 3229 BC. So within that time period, the fallen angels would have came, based off the narrative and using the historical timeline. So Enoch was born 3229 BC, verse 19. And Jared lived after he begot Enoch 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. So 3229 BC to 2429 BC is 800 years. That's the time of Jared. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. So Jared would have lived from 3371 BC to 2409 BC. That would have been the length of Jared. Right here on the map, you see Jared come down to his timeline, 3371 BC, come back up, scroll down, right here. This is his timeline right here. We bring it down, 2409 BC. But look where that falls in the timeline of history. Old dynastic, old kingdom. See that? Look at this. You got Dozier. Dozier is 2686 BC to 2548 BC. So Jared would have been around during the days of Dozier. Show you that this don't make no sense. Now look what it says, verse 21. And Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. So Methuselah was born in the year 3164 BC. Now let's come to the chart. There go Methuselah right here. Come down on his timeline and look what his date is. 3164 BC. 3164 BC is the time of Methuselah, right? But look at 3150 BC. That's Narmer. Narmer is on the scene 3150 BC, but they have Methuselah being born in the year 3164 BC. That's 14 years after that Narmer was born. How can Narmer down here be born and ruling Kemet and being a Hamite before the birth of Shem, Ham, and Japheth? I ain't come to them. Although you see it right here, I ain't got down to them yet. I'm going to show you how we got to them numbers. So Methuselah was born in the year 3164 BC, while Narmer was ruling 3150 BC. He ain't even supposed to be born yet. So again, verse 22. Hold on. All right. Verse 22. And Enoch walked with God after he begot Methuselah 300 years, and he begot sons and daughters. So Enoch, 300 years from 3164 BC to 2864 BC. That's the 300 years Enoch walked. And then look what it says. Verse 23. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. So 365 years is from 3229 BC, the birth of Enoch, to 2864 BC. That would have been the year he got taken up. So when Enoch was taken up to heaven, it would have been the year 2864 BC. That's when Enoch would have been taken up. And we go to the timeline. Let's look at Enoch. There go Enoch right there. You know, Enoch timeline is kind of short. So you see Enoch, let's go down, 3229 BC. Come back up, scroll down to when he was taken up in 2864 BC. That's when Enoch was supposed to have been taken up to heaven with God. See that? Showing you when you put it on the timeline, it ain't making no sense. The narrative don't make sense based off the narrative of the story of the historical timeline. Ain't nobody ever told you a date of none of these people. And nobody ever told you a actual date for the birth of Adam and the death of Adam on a historical timeline. I'm giving you a birth and the death date on a historical timeline based off what they said the creation of heaven and earth began, which is the year 3761 BC. They said that. But nobody put this together to make it make sense. Now look at this, verse 25. And Methuselah lived 187 years and begot Lamech. Now here go Lamech. Lamech was born in the year 2977 BC. When we come to the chart, who do we see? We see Lamech. Who was Lamech? Lamech is the father of Noah. Now when we scoot down, Lamech was born in the year 29 77 BC. Now keep in mind, Narmer is already on the scene ruling ancient Egypt. Narmer united Upper and Lower Egypt in 3150 BC or 3rd millennium BC. But here you have Lamech being born in the year 2977 BC. Now, Lamech is before the flood. Narmer is after the flood. The time of Narmer is supposed to be after the flood. But Lamech, being born in the year 2977 BC, is before the flood. I'm showing you the inconsistencies using the timeline that the biblical narrative is completely off. Historically, it's off. The whole narrative is false. The whole story is false. Everything is false. Y'all been bamboozled. I'm showing you it's false. Ain't no Hebrew Israelite ever told you the dates of these people. Ain't damn nigga ever said that the time of Noah was 3229 BC. Ain't damn nigga ever said that the birth of the birth of Adam was 3761 BC. Ain't nobody did that. But using what they gave you, which is 3761 BC as the Hebrew calendar, as said in the Old Testament, which is the time of the creation, and base it from there, using that historical timeline and put the names of the descendants of Adam within the timeline to show the historical timeline to show you that it's off. None of these people could have existed because they would have, especially coming on down to after Narmer, they would have been documented. Nigga, Narmer is 3150 BC. Look at that. Let me small out the screen some. Let me small it out. All right, let's look at this. Narmer is 3150 BC. Adam lived from 3761 BC, and Adam died in the year 2831 BC. Adam would have been alive during the time of Narmer. Narmer would have been out there slaying niggas in the northern and the south to unite Upper and Lower Egypt, while Adam would have been still walking the earth. Adam was walking the earth when Narmer was uniting Upper and Lower Egypt. Yo, that shit don't even make no sense. That shit don't even make no sense. See that? Enoch would have been walking the earth when Narmer would have been ruling, and the pre-dynastic rulers of Egypt would have been ruling. Enoch would have been walking the earth. Now let's keep it moving. I'm just showing you when you put this on a timeline, it's over for the Bible. Now look at this. Verse 26. And Methuselah lived and begot Lamech 782 years, and he begot sons and daughters. So Lamech's birth is 2977 BC to 2195 BC. That's 782 years. Verse 27. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. So Methuselah lived from 3164 BC to 2195 BC. That would have been the days of Methuselah. Now let's put that on the time chart. You see Methuselah right there? It's kind of small. Let me bring it up. Methuselah, he's born in 3164 BC. Keep in mind, Narmer unites Upper and Lower Egypt 3150 BC. So Methuselah dies 2200 BC. Oh, no, it's right here. I didn't put the stick to it, but 2864 BC. No, 2195 BC. Right here. I got that one switched it out. But nonetheless, look at this. This is off. This is supposed to be the timeline that these people existed in the Bible, using the historical timeline. Now look, and Lamech lived 182 years and begot a son. Now look, and this son, of course, is Noah. So Noah was born in 2795 BC. Now look, we come to Noah. There go Noah. We got the birth date of Noah, 2795 BC. That's when Noah was born. Noah was born during the time that pre-dynastic Egypt began to rule. This is when Noah. But keep in mind, the Egyptians come from the seed of Ham. Ham come from Noah. So how can Narmer be in existence, uniting Upper and Lower Egypt before Noah was even born, using this timeline. See that? Look at that. See Noah? There we go. See Noah? See the birth of Noah? 2795 BC. See Narmer? 3150 BC. How can this? Narmer is supposed to be after Noah, not before it. Showing you the inconsistencies of the timeline. Narmer is a descendant of Ham. Shem, Ham, and Japheth was born in the year 2295 BC. Narmer is supposed to be after Ham, not before Ham. See that? But you could do this yourself. You place the time periods of these men starting from 3761 BC, and you're going to come up with the same thing. So Noah was born in the year 2795 BC, verse 29. And look, and he called his name Noah, saying, this same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed. So there go Noah. Now keep in mind, Noah, let's get Noah. Let's get Noah. Let's get Noah. So this is Noah. Now keep in mind, the only description you get of Noah is from the book of Enoch. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Right here. Right? Okay, go right here. What is the description of Noah? 1 Enoch 106, fragment of the book of Noah. And after some days, my son Methuselah took a wife for his son Lamech, and she became pregnant by him and bore him a son. His body was white as snow. This is Noah we talking about. His body was white as snow, red as a rose, the hair of his head as white as wool. So here's how Noah would have been looking. That's how Noah would have been looking. That's the description of Noah. So this Noah would have been born 2795 BC. That's Noah, the pale Noah. So keep in mind, the pale Noah would have birthed Shem, Ham, and Japheth. But keep in mind, this is off because Narmer is 3150 BC, and they got Noah being born in the year 2795 BC. So that's off. That's off right there. So look at that, verse 30. And Lamech lived after he begot Noah 595 years, and he begot sons and daughters. So this is the birth of Noah, 2977 BC to 2382 BC. It's 595 years, right? And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. Lamech 777 years, which is 2977 BC to 2200 BC. Those were the days of Lamech. That's when he would have been born and died, right here. You bring that on the scale. They go Lamech right here, 2977 BC, and he died 2200 BC. Is it 2200? Yeah, right here. He would have died right during the Middle Kingdom. I mean, right at the ending of the Middle Kingdom. I mean, the Old Kingdom. Lamech would have been, so he would have survived ancient Egypt, the Old Kingdom. He would have seen the pyramids built and all that. Lamech would have been living during the Pyramid Age, but they weren't supposed to have been born yet. And Noah was 500 years old, and he begot who? Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Say what? Noah was what? 500 years old. Now keep in mind, when Noah was born, and he begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So from 2795 BC, when Noah was born, 500 years after that is 2295 BC. That's the birth of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Shem, Ham, and Japheth was born in the year 2295 BC. We come back to the chart. What do we see right here? 2295 BC. This is when Shem, Ham, and Japheth was born. But look where it is placed in the timeline of history. 2295 BC. Matter of fact, it was down here. I forgot to put it. Hold on, where is that? 2295. Yeah, it's down here. I forgot to erase that and put it down here. So it's down here. 2295 BC will be up in here. See that? This would have been during the kingdom of Egypt. The old kingdom is when they would have been born. They would have been coming. They would have been. They would have been on the scene when the Hebrews would have been sojourning in that in Egypt during the Middle Kingdom. See that? So Shem, Ham, and Japheth would have been born 2295 BC, which is down here. 2295 BC up in here. Right at the old kingdom, at the ending of the old kingdom of Egypt, and towards the beginning of the new kingdom of Egypt, Shem, Ham, and Japheth would have been born. See that? That's crazy. So all these time periods of the old pre-dynastic to Narmer, they ain't even supposed to be there. Because they're supposed to come after Shem, Ham, and Japheth. After him, not before him. Showing you the historical timeline is off. Big time. And look, Genesis 6:11. In the 600th year of Adam's life, now keep in mind, we got the birth date of Adam. In the second month, 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up and the windows of heaven were open. So now look, we got the year of the flood. We got the year of the flood. In the year 2195 BC, second month, 17th day is when the flood occurred. So 2195 BC is the year of the flood. Right here. 2195 BC, that's the year of the flood. Let me come back up to this earlier chart. Right here. See that? 2195 BC, that's the year of the flood. See that? There is no historical record of a flood taking place in the year 2491 BC because history is being recorded pretty good, pretty documented at that. You know what's going on at that time? The second intermediate period and the development of the beginning of the Middle Kingdom is taking place at this time, when the flood or the deluge of water is supposed to be taking place. So they off. The whole narrative is off. 2195, right here. That's the time of the flood, right here. See that? This is what's going on in Egypt. Look at Dozier. Dozier had built the pyramids, or the reign of Dozier is 2686 to 2648 BC. Look at that. Who would have been walking the earth around this time? Enoch. Adam. He would have now been dying. Adam would have lived to see the pyramid get built. Look, Adam died in the year 2831 BC. The pyramids was built, or Dozier died in the year 2648 BC. He would have lived to see the pyramids. Adam would have lived to see the Adam would have lived to see the step pyramids get built. Showing you that this thing is off. Big time. And look, and Noah lived after the flood 350 years. So from 2195 BC to 1845 BC, 350 years. And then it states, right here, verse 29. And all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. So Noah lived 950 years. That would have been from 2975 BC to 1845 BC. Noah would have lived to see the Israelites go into Egypt. The Israelites went into Egypt right here. So look, let's go to Noah. Look at that. We got Noah. This is Noah. Noah was born in 2795 BC, and Noah died in 1845 BC, which means Noah would have seen the Israelites come into Egypt, because here go to Ben Hassan or Kidemhotep II. When you see the Asiatics, the Hekakasu, the Hebrews, the Heperules coming into Egypt at the beginning of the Middle Kingdom. In 1845, that would have been Israel's sojourn in Egypt, because Israel spent the Middle Kingdom in Egypt from 2000 BC to 1546 BC is the 400 plus years that the Israelites were spent in Egypt. And Noah died the year 1845 in Egypt. I mean, in 1845 BC. So that means when Noah died, Israel would have been sojourning in Egypt. I'm showing you how this shit is off. This shit is completely off. So when you use the biblical timeline based off the Hebrew calendar, this is what you get. Because you remember 3761 BC right here is the time of creation, the time of Adam. And these are the death dates. This is when Adam died, 2831 BC. This is when Seth died, 2719 BC. This is when Enos died, 2611 BC. Now look at these time periods of their death. It's all within the old kingdom of Egypt. How can Adam, Seth, Enos, Methuselah, Jared, Enoch, how can these men have died during the old kingdom of Egypt when the Egyptians shouldn't even be a people yet, because they would have to come after Ham? They would have to come after 2295 BC down here. Showing you it's off. Now look at this when we place it in the time of history. Now look at this. Let's see if I got any more to read right here. All right, so now look at this. Again, I put more historical stuff in the timeline to show you how foolish the narrative of the biblical chronology is of time. Now look, you remember the year 3761 is when creation was created. The heavens and the earth was created, including Adam. So Adam would have been born in the year 3761 BC. From Adam to Noah, you see right there, all that's taking place from Adam to Noah. Now look at that. You got the Uruk king, the Anu temple, the ziggurat in 3500 BC. You got the migration into Egypt, pre-dynastic times. You got in Mesopotamia, you got the goddess Inanna, 3300 BC. You got Narmer, 3100 BC, dynastic period. You got this particular Egyptian pharaoh, 2690 BC. You got the start of the Old Kingdom in 2686 BC, and then you have the birth of Noah in 2765 BC. You got all this Egyptian history going on before the birth of Noah. And Noah is supposed to be the one who had Ham, and Ham is supposed to be the one who had the descendants of the Egyptians. So how can the descendants of the Egyptians be existent prior to the birth of Noah? See, when we put it on the timeline, it destroys the narrative. It shows that the biblical narrative is completely false. Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah, all that is false. Because you can't put it in a time, place, and history where these things make sense. Ain't nothing else to talk about after that. Look at Noah. Now look at the time of the flood. The time of the flood is 2195 BC. Look at that. The first intermediate period was 2182 BC. See that? So how can the second intermediate period be going on when the flood, it's just a flood took place a couple years earlier? But look at that. But look at Noah. Look at Noah specifically. Because you got all this Egyptian. Now, Shem is supposed to be Persia, Mesopotamia. But look, you have the Uraka priest right here. Look at this. You got the Uraka priest, king priest of the Anu temple, the Ziggurat. They go to Ziggurat in 3500 BC. You have a migration into Egypt pre-dynastic times. You got the Mesopotamia. This is Shem. Uraka, that's Shem. Mesopotamia goddess Inanna, that's Shem. Then we got Ham coming to Narmer. All that's existing before the birth of Noah. See that? Ain't nothing else to talk about after that. This is the 23rd arc cycle after the creation of man that the false god Anu Hassas gave you the false account of creation, and they coincide with his false account. He placed his false account within his time period and reign. So can't nobody talk about nothing. It's over. There's nothing else to talk about after this. You can't talk about an Adam. Keep in mind, like I said, ain't nan Hebrew Israelite ever put a timeline on Adam, Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. I gave you a timeline. We read that the year was 3761 BC of the Hebrew calendar. You see that? It's over. This is the 23rd arc cycle. Let's go back up to these arc cycles. See that? They go to 23rd arc cycle right there. See 23 arc cycle come down. 23 is from 3953 BC to 1553 BC. That's the 23rd arc cycle. Look at all the arc cycles going back. See the 23rd arc cycle? This is when God said, "Let there be in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." 23 arc cycles in. That's a crying shame. That's a crying shame that y'all fall for this, yo. Now, in the Oaspe, it gives us a time period when man was created. It says, finding the inhabitable time for mortals on the earth. Book of Cosmogony and Prophecy, chapter 5, verse 17, placed the Simoan age at 99 degrees Fahrenheit scale, the time of quickening animal life. So here we put everything on the timeline. We got a chart. And here go the time of creation. The Simoan age is 144,000 years, broken down into two halves of 72,000 years. And those 72,000 years are broken down into 24,000 years called Gadar periods. Or what you would sometimes call the, not the equinox, the procession. What you call the procession of 24,000 years is what the Oaspe call the Gadar period. And these 24,000 years lead up to higher numbers. So 3 Gadar periods is 72,000 years. 6 Gadar periods is 144,000 years. So the first age is called the time of creation, 144,000 years. The second age is called the inhabitable time for animal and man, and that's 144,000 years. So the inhabitable age, meaning from our creation to our dissipation as a race, our extinction, takes place within a span of 144,000 years. Now, you've been taught that man been on the planet for millions of years. Now, that is true, but in pockets. It's like an apple tree doesn't grow fruit all year. It's pockets. So you may have an apple tree that grows fruit one year, the next year, but not all randomly at the same time. It's in pockets. So in this particular garden, in this particular pocket, where we were created roughly 80,000 years ago, 78,000 years ago, or the first half, right here. 99 degree Gadar, this 24,000 year period, in the inhabitable age. So again, now the inhabitable age is broken down into 144,000 years into two halves of 72,000 years, and then in 6 24,000 year periods, or Gadar degrees. So man was created right here. So when we show this chart right here, you see, right here. Let me come back up right here, right? You see, it says the first arc cycle, the time of the creation of mortals. On this chart, that's the same thing, but dealing with the vortexian degrees of the planet, the Gadol degrees, or the 24,000-year precession. It says, place the sea moon age at 99 degrees Fahrenheit scale, the time of quickening animal life. So after the first age, when the second age came in, it's like going from spring to summer. That's what this is saying. So in the springtime is when creation was taking place, when the earth was being a vortex, where it's being created to be inhabitable enough to sustain animal life. That's when it goes to the second age, the summer age. That's where we're in right now. We're in the summer age because we're in the inhabitable time of the planet. And 99 Gadol degrees is the time of quickening animal life. To find the sea moon age of man, place his temperature at 98 degrees Fahrenheit for optimum health. So this is optimum health for man, 98 degrees. This is your body temperature right here. So this is when man was created within this time period. This is roughly 80,000 years ago, right? 80,000 years, just to put a scale on it, when man was created in this particular garden. And it says, and 102 at inflammation or death. So this is 102, inflammation and death. Meaning to say that man could not have been created in this time period because the earth would have been too hostile as an environment to support man. The temperature was a little bit way more hotter than what it is now. The earth is at the perfect temperature right now to sustain man, right? It says 4 below normal will therefore be the end of the period of man's inhabitation on the planet. So man is going to exist right here. This is the existence of man right here. See, 98 degrees optimum health. This is when man going to go into extinction. And keep in mind, this is the whole period of the inhabitable age. So this science is broken down dealing with the geography of the earth, the temperature, the heating up and the cooling down. This is the fluctuation of man on this planet dealing with earthly environment. So look, here's another example. This is the inhabitable age, 144,000 years, broken down into two halves. Right now, we're at the middle half. Because if I told you that we 80,000 years from the creation of man, that'll make us at the halfway mark right here. So we got another 72,000 years on this planet before humans become extinct. And here's the example right here. This is the creation of man right here. Look what it says. To find the sea moon age of man, places temperature at 98 degrees, which is for optimum health. So that's right here. And then look what it states. 4 below normal. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 below normal is 94 Gadol degrees. It says 4 below normal, therefore be the end of the period of man's inhabitation on the earth. So the Oaspe is breaking this down on a scientific level, dealing with the geography of the planet, its vortexian temperature, its heating up and cooling down. But nonetheless, the existence of man is within this time period. So this is the equivalent of saying when an apple tree comes around in spring, it's going to give birth to apples. It's going to bear fruit between the months of, let's say, June to August, and then that tree ain't gonna bear no more fruit. That was this time to bear fruit between the months of June and August. So that's saying the creation of man and its existence is like from June to August. That's the existence of man. After that, the earth is going to be in a climatic change to where it's not going to be able to support bearing fruit. You got to wait till that cycle got to come back around. It's like the 4 seasons, the 4 ages. So man right now is just one set of fruits in this particular garden before the earth becomes hostile to where it can't support man and man become extinct to the planet until that cycle rolls back around when man is created again the same way the next year roll around and new fruits are created off the fruit tree. That wasn't the same fruits from last year. It's the same process with the creation of man and the extinction of man. See that? 16 cycles, chapter 1, verse 5. At the time of the creation of the earth, of the creation of man, the earth was traveling in the ark of Wayne. That's what we just showed right there. This is the ark of Wayne. So man was created right here. Keep in mind, in the biblical narrative, man was created in the 23rd ark cycle. See that? We in the 25th arc cycle. So man was created roughly 78,000 years ago, while in the Bible, man was created not even 6,000 years ago. Which one makes more sense? Which one would you lean towards? The 6,000-year-old creation of man or a 78,000-year-old creation of man? Because now with the 78,000-year-old creation of man, we put Asu or Adam way back here. We put the descendants, we put Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the fleets of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and the Ark of Noah, we put that 24,000 years ago. So if we wanted to use the narrative of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, we could say, look, Ham was 24,000 years ago. So by the time you get to the 23rd arc cycle, and by the time you get to the 4th millennium, 3rd millennium BC, it would make sense to see the pyramids being built, being centuries, thousands of years after the Ham that was in the 17th arc cycle, or 24,000 years ago. That'll match the narrative better. But you can't match the narrative talking about Noah was born in 22, and then Narmer is over here 3150 BC already ruling, and he's supposed to come after. So that don't make sense. So I'm showing you that the Oaspe got a better concept of creation and a timeline. So again, first half of the inhabitable age. So the inhabitable age meaning from the creation of man, or from the first stock of the first fruit on your apple tree to the last stock of the last fruit on that apple tree. So from the creation of man to the extinction of man is 144,000 years. And we are at the halfway mark. We're right here down the center. We at the midway mark. That's where we at. We got another 72,000 years before we become extinct to the planet. So the earth ain't going nowhere no time soon, because the earth ain't going nowhere. Man is going somewhere. And the way man is going somewhere is going to be based off the environment. There's going to be environmental changes. If you look at the Sahara desert, the planet is going to become a desert. That's called the age of barrenness. So look at this. Look at this. There go the creation of man. Come back up real quick. Come back up. You see the arc cycles, right? You see the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on. Arc cycles. Come down the line. We come down the line. There go the earth in the first arc cycle. We come down the line. We see the date. What that say? Creation of mortals, 71,553 BC. See that? That's the time of the creation of man. So 71,000 years ago, or 71,553 BC, is a big difference from 3761 BC in your Bible. This is the biblical narrative right here. Let me come to it. Right here. See that? This is the biblical creation, 3761 BC. This is the Oaspe time of creation, 71,553 BC. That's a big difference. So the Adam in the Oaspe goes back to 71,553 BC, while the Adam in the Bible goes back to 3761 BC during the Nakata period and the Ubaid period of ancient Sumer. You can't tell me what age and period, what was going on in Sumer and ancient Egypt in 71,553 BC. You can't show me a roll of dynastic anything's going back to 71,553 BC, placed at the creation of man. See that? So now, that's the creation of man. Now, when we scoot down, look, this is the time that the Bible gives you Noah, 3761 BC. Look at the time. Let me come back up real quick. This is the 23rd arc cycle. See 23, 24, and so on. The 23rd arc cycle. Let's scroll down. We see 3953 BC. Keep in mind, God created the heavens and the earth in 3761 BC. So it would have been within this gap, within this arc cycle, within this block, is when Adam would have been created. When Noah and the flood. Now, Noah and the flood was when? Let's get a look. When was the year of the flood? Look, the year of the flood was 2195 BC. That was the year of the flood. Now look at this. 2195 BC would have been within the 23rd arc cycle. Look at the year of the flood in the Oaspe. Look what it say right here, time of the flood. What does it say? 22,000 22,553 BC. That's the time of the flood in the Oaspe. 22,553 BC. While in the biblical narrative, the time of the flood would have been the year 2195 BC. In 2195 BC, what's going on in 2495 BC? What's going on in 2195 BC? What's going on in look, the pyramid text, the first intermediate period, that's off. But when you look at the Oaspe account of where the flood is at, going back to 22,553 BC, what can you show us back then going on in ancient Egypt, 22,553 BC? Nothing. So this time period in the Oaspe gives us a way better timeline of history compared to the Bible, where everything is measured within the 23rd arc cycle in biblical history. We see the first era in civilization that the Oaspe talks about. This is the first era. Let me come up. I know I'm moving kind of fast, but check it. You see the 10th arc cycle? So from the first arc cycle to the 10th arc cycle, measuring 3,000 years is 30,000 years. So from the creation of Adam in the Oaspe to the first era of civilization on this planet is 30,000 years. Let's scroll down. You see the Earth in the 10th arc cycle. It says first era of civilization. And what does it say? This is 43,553 BC. That's when the Earth had the first era of civilization. 43,553 BC is the first era of civilization. The Bible don't even go back that far. The Bible stops at the Bible creation story starts at 3761 BC. It starts at the rise of ancient Sumer and ancient Egyptian history, while the Oaspe is telling you that the first era of civilization was 43,553 BC. And then not only that, it gives you a description of the time of that time period going back pre-flood. This is before the flood. This is pre-flood. Synopsis of 16 cycles. The 10th cycle was under Misilativa's chieftainess of the Arks of Logosback in the Ark of Nu, and her harvest was 10 billion and 800 million. Now look, this is the 10th ark cycle. This is the same thing, but just with the number of the arks. So you got Ark of Nu. That's the number of the 10th ark cycle. They go to 10th ark cycle, right? And then look what it states. Let me grab something to drink right quick. Give me a one in the chat if y'all getting this understanding, family. Give me a one in the chat if y'all getting this, family. We got tearing up still, yo. We got tearing up still. So check it, right? Look what it says. Now, this is a description of the earth 43,553 BC. Verse synopsis of 16 cycles, chapter 1, verse 19, it states, and now the earth was full of people, and all the continents and islands of the earth were inhabited by man, nor was there any wilderness left where man did not dwell. Now look at that. They're letting you know 43,000 years ago, 45,000 years ago, that this earth was fully inhabited on all the continents and all the islands. See that? Look at this. The Venus of Holy Fels figurine. Look at the date. 40,000 to 35,000 years ago. They got a date on this. Keep in mind, the Bible is 3,761 years in its creation. We're going back 40,000 years. We're finding artifacts going back 40,000 years, which will be the same time period that the Oaspe talks is the first era of civilization. You can't find nothing in the Bible, biblical, archaeologically, historicity, that could go back 40,000 years. You can't. Everything in the Bible will have to have a limit peak of 3761 BC if we're doing historical research. Can't nothing go back before 3761 BC doing biblical historical research. But in the Oaspe, man goes back to 78,000 years. The first era of civilization is 45,000 years. So 40,000 years, if we find an artifact, we could place it in a time period. See that? So when we come back up here, for example, and this is the 10th arc cycle, and it said the first era of civilization. So when the Earth reached this time period, 30,000 years after the creation of man, man was already in the first era of civilization. Man had become inhabitable on all continents of the planet. On all continents. 553 BC is the first era of civilization. And then the verse states right here in verse 9 that the earth was full of people, all the continents and islands of the earth were inhabited by man, nor were there any wilderness left where man did not dwell. So they're letting you know right here that the earth was fully inhabited. And here goes some of the evidence and artifacts going back 40,000 to 35,000 years to validate what the Oaspe is saying. Who created this figurine? Can't no dum-dum make that. Dum-dum can't make that. Him downstairs can't make that. That got to take skill to carve and do these things. You got to have material. You know what I mean? Tools. Now look what it states. Verse 20. But the generations of men had fallen from 33 years down to 12 years. And man and woman were at maturity at 7 years old. So that means that niggas was grown folks at 7. And not many lived above 30. But they were prolific, many of the mothers bringing forth scores, sons and daughters, and from 2 to 4 babies at birth. So this time period, it was not like how we are now. See, that's the problem. We always place how we live now and how we think now, how we dress and how we talk now at the beginning of the creation or at particular historical times in the past. No. This is like, if you ever seen Lord of the Rings and the Hobbits and these little motherfuckers, let me see if I can pull that up. Like Lord of the Rings. Now I'll come back to that, but like Lord of the Rings and the Hobbits, this is like pre-Diluvian time. You know what I'm saying? So they're showing you that man was at maturity at 7 and didn't even live to be no older than 30. So 30 years old, niggas was looking old. But look what it states next. And man dwelt in peace. The earth was tilled, and it brought forth abundantly everything that was good for man to eat and to clothe himself with. In those days, there were great cities of hundreds of thousands of inhabitants, and thousands of such cities in all the 5 great divisions of the earth. See that? That's America, India, Africa, Asia. They letting you know. Pan, this is before the continent of Pan sunk. Ain't no telling what was going on back then. We don't have a clue of this type of history. All the history we know starts right here. This is all we know right here. This is all we know right here. Coming from Narmer and the Egyptian pyramids, but that's only not even 6,000 years ago. But Oaspe is referencing a time period going back 40,000, 45,000 years ago, how the whole planet was inhabited with man. And look what it states here. It says, and man built ships and sailed over the ocean in all directions around the whole world. By the angels of the Lord was he taught and guided in all things. See that? So the inspiration came from the angels. And look at this. And man had books, both written, printed. Look at that. They printing books 45,000 years ago. And in schools, the young were taught knowledge regarding the sun, moon, and stars, and all things that are upon the earth and in its waters. This was therefore called the first period of civilization on the earth. So here the Oaspe is giving us an insight of the first era of civilization on the earth, going back 45,000 years ago. Well, your time, now keep in mind, Narmer and them is supposed to be uniting Upper and Lower Egypt, 3100 BC. But look how far down the line of history is Narmer in comparison to what the Oaspe is referencing, the first era of civilization. They'll tell you that the first era of civilization was with the Sumerians, and Mesopotamia was the first people who wrote, and then the Egyptians. That's the furthest they go back is 6,000 years. Oaspe going back and giving you an insider history 45,000 years with some artifacts going back to that time period. And they go to map. They go to the Earth in the 10th arc cycle. You see the first era of civilization. This is what we just read is the time period that happens. The biblical narrative is way down here in the 23rd arc cycle. Look at this. Look at this. Stone core for making fine blades, Bokor Tekted, Negus, Israel, circa 40,000. Look at this. So I'm showing you evidence of that time period. 40,000 years ago. Whatever that is. Look at that. Look at this. Look at this. Upper Paleolithical age. But look at the time period down here. Look at the time period. Look at the time period. 40,000 years. 35,000 years. This would have been during the time period of the first era of civilization, what we just read. There is no Bible around this time. There is no in the beginning God. Your God didn't even exist around this time. Your God existed in 3761 BC. That's when your God came into existence. While the Oaspe is rendering up a history going back 45,000 years ago and giving you artifacts of that time period of the first era of civilization. Look at that. 2 fossils of Homo sapiens dated to 40,800 years to 39,200 years. See, look, this will fit the time period of what we're dealing with. Look at that. Look at that. That's a Homo sapien, 2 fossils of Homo sapiens dated to the time period of the first era of civilization. Show you that Homo sapien is thinking man, so man would have been capable of being civilized 40,000 years ago. Look at this. Look at this. What'd that say? What'd that say? I don't know how I click this off. Hold on. I'll do this real quick. This 45,500-year-old pig painting is the world's oldest animal art. Look at that. The world's oldest animal art is 45,000 years ago, but you can't put that in your biblical timeline because that predates your biblical timeline. Look at that. Keep it moving on. Let's get to some more stuff. Proving the time of the first era of civilization. Now look at this. Look what it says right here. One of the oldest known figurative paintings, a depiction of an unknown bovine, was discovered in the, what's that? Jari Sila cave and dated to be more than 40,000 years. So this painting goes back to 40,000 years. The very same time period the Oaspe places the first era of civilization. But your Bible narrative does not even go back this far. You can't talk Bible history going back 40,000 years. We're showing you artifacts, objective facts, going to a time period that Oaspe literature is referencing. An artistic depiction of a group of, what's that, rhinoceroses was completed in a cave, look at that, 30 to 32,000 years ago. Look at that. Look at the artwork. This is a 30,000-year-old drawing. Look how detailed that is. These ain't no niggas rubbing stones drawing this. To draw this in a cave at that, look at that. They had to smoothen the surface. Look at that. Come on now. You can't go nowhere. This Bible stops for you from here. You can't go nowhere. You can't reference these things and talk about Bible. Look at this. 30-year-old cave hyena painting found in France. This is 30,000 years right here. Look at that. 30,000 years ago. Bible don't exist. Your God don't exist. Your God don't come into existence until 3761 BC. Your God just floating around space during this time doing nothing. While man is in his first era of civilization. It's game over, man. It's game over, man. Ain't nothing else to talk about with me. Y'all can't come in the ring with me with all this hanging over your head. Look at that. Europe's prehistoric cave painting has roots in the Middle East, archaeologists say. Come on, man. So I'm just showing you reference after reference, source after source, going to a time period that the Oaspe references the first era of civilization being 45,000 years ago. And I'm showing you references, sources, and artifacts going back to that time period. You can't do that with Bible. You can't reference nothing in the Bible that goes past 3761 BC. So now look at this, the time of the flood. The time of the flood, the deluge. See that? The time of the flood. Now they go to arc cycles. The time of the flood in the Oaspe is the 17th arc cycle. They go to 17th arc cycle right here. 17th arc cycle. Come down. They go to Earth. So when the Earth was traveling on its arcs and it came to the 17th arc cycle, this is when what? The time of the flood. The time of the flood is 22,553 BC. 22,553 BC is the time of the flood. But according to Bible, the time of the flood was 2195 BC. That's the ending of the old kingdom of Egypt when the flood of Noah would have took place. How can the flood of Noah take place and you have pyramids being built before it? The pyramids were supposed to have been built after the flood, because it's after the flood that you have Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So I'm showing you how the timeline, the biblical timeline, when you place it on the historical timeline, is off. But if the flood is 22,553 BC based off the Oaspe, that wipes this whole time period out. That's bye-bye. We over here. See that? You see 22,553 BC? What I just showed you right is down here. 3953 BC to 1550. That's in this block. The time of the deluge is down here, but they got the time of the deluge down here in this block. So the time of the flood is 22,553 BC. It makes way more sense than 2195 BC. And what happened? Look, Book of Aph, Son of Jehovah, chapter 1, verse 1. In the time of the world, 24,000 years before the Cosmon era, the great serpent in the ark of Noah in the Etherian heaven. See, Noah is called the ark of Noah. The false gods gave him a narrative as being a person, but in the Oaspe it renders up the truth that these are astronomical signs, astronomical times. It's an arc cycle. So right here, the 17th arc cycle, this is called the ark of Noah. Each arc cycle got a name. The 17th arc is called the ark of Noah. They go to Earth in the ark of Noah, and it's the time of the deluge or the sinking of the continent of Pan, which the Bible does not even mention. One of the greatest events that ever took place in the history of the planet, the Bible don't even mention. And there you have it again. See, the Ark of One, the Ark of Nu, and the Ark of Noah. The 17th ark, what does it say? The time of the flood or sinking of Pan. And here you have it again, another chart. So you put everything on the timeline. Ain't no confusion over here. You'll never catch me out there on the timeline. I got everything charted out. So look at so from the creation of man to the flood is 48,000 years. And from the flood to our time is 24,000 years. So see that 24,000 years right there? So from the Cosmon era back to the flood is 24,000 years. And from the flood to our present time, 24,000 years. So when the verse read up here earlier, when it said right here, in the time of the world, 24,000 years before Cosmon, what that reference is this right here. Right here. Here go Cosmon. 24,000 years before Cosmon is the Ark of Noah. The Ark of Noah right here. So when that verse say that, in the year or 24,000 years before Cosmon, that's how that's viewed. That's how you read that. This is the Ark of Cosmon. 24,000 years before the Ark of Cosmon is the Ark of Noah. An arc cycle traveling in the Etherian firmament. Just like the verse states, what it states, in the time of the world, 24,000 years before the Cosmon era, the great serpent being in the ark of Noah in the Etherian kingdom, in the Etherian heavens. So that's the earth in the Etherian firmament, or passing through that light, that ark in the Etherian firmament. And that's when the flood took place. They go to time period. Now look, the Venus of La Soule, 25,000-year-old in France. So look, these are the Venus goddesses. But look at the time period, 25,000 years. The flood took place around this time. So this is showing you artifacts and references pre and post flood. Look at this. Look at the time period, 25,000 years ago. See that? This would have been during the time of the flood. You can't reference Bible with this. There is no reference of anything in the Bible that could reference this right here, because the Bible would not have been in existence. Your God is not in existence. He did not create heaven and earth yet. The sinking of the continent of Pan, that was Pan in the Pacific. They go to Ring of Fire. The remnants and evidence left after the sinking of the continent of Pan by the Etherian god 25,000 years ago, showing you the evidence of a once continent. See, the Oaspe showed you the continent in the book. And then in the Pacific Ocean, you see something called the Ring of Fire. Why don't we have a Ring of Fire in the Atlantic Ocean? Why isn't there a Ring of Fire in the Atlantic Ocean? Why is there a Ring of Fire in the Pacific Ocean? And can't nobody explain this Ring of Fire except Creator Gang. Because we have an explanation of this Ring of Fire. The Oaspe actually explains how this Ring of Fire take place, being the submerging of the continent of Pan 25,000 years ago. Your Bible can't reference that. And that's just some of the verses going into it. The cause of the Ring of Fire. Here's the cause of the Ring of Fire right here. We'll read that. This is the cause of the Ring of Fire. The book of Oaspe, son of Jehovah, chapter 6, verse 4 through 9. Now, this is the sinking of the continent of Pan, formerly known as the flood in your Bible. Verse 4. And the end of the Etherian column that extended down to the earth was made secure around the borders of Pan, or Waga, by the sea and the high mountains to the north. So they're saying that these Etherians, they created a hedge around. See the Ring of Fire? See that hedge going around where the Ring of Fire is? They created a hedge around it. That's what the Oaspe is saying right here. It says, and look, secured around the borders of Pan, meaning the continent, by the sea and the high mountains to the north. So this is, so let me put the picture of Pan up. So this is Pan. So they created a hedge around here. That's what it's saying. Around the north and the high mountains in the north. So they're creating a suction around this continent. Right? And this suction, the remnants of it became the Ring of Fire. Now, we're going to show how it became the Ring of Fire quick, fast. So again, and the end of the Etherian column that extended down to the earth was made secure around the borders of Pan by the sea and the high mountains to the north. So there you have it. They were the Ring of Fire. They would have put a hedge around it, like how you see this little hedge around here. Right? Now look what it states. In verse 18, and I divided the line into sections, each with 250 ships, and there were 1,000 sections, meaning that there was 250,000 ships, and every ship was contracted 10,000-fold, which was the force required to break the crust of the earth and sink a continent. So not only they're describing you that they're creating a hedge around the continent, they're also describing that there's 250,000 ships that's around this continent, and they're contracting a force that's strong enough to break the crust of a continent, not only break the crust of the continent, but sink it. So this is the dynamics that the Oaspe is showing you. And look what it states in the book of Oaspe, son of Jehovah, chapter 6, verse 5 through 9. And again I said, O Jehovah, deliver the earth from evil, for your glory forever. And look what it states. Look what it states. It's how the Ring of Fire became the Ring of Fire. Verse 6. And the vortex of the earth closed in from the rim. And lo, the earth was broken. Look what it states. A mighty continent was cut loose from its fastening. And the what? The fires of the earth came forth in flames and cloud, with loud roaring, and the land rocked to and fro like a ship at sea. So these Etherian angels, these advanced angels, they hedged around the continent, contracted a force, broke the crust of it, and then they're going to suppress it underwater. That's what the Oaspe is describing, that took place in the Pacific Ocean 25,000 years ago, which left a remnant known as the Ring of Fire. See, we have an explanation of this Ring of Fire. If you ask somebody who read the Bible, what is the biblical explanation of the Ring of Fire? They have nothing. They have nothing. Look what it states. Verse 7. Again, I said, O Jehovah, deliver your heavens, which are bound like a chain to a rotten carcass. Look what happened. Look. Verse 8. And again, the vortex of the earth closed in on all sides, and by the pressure, the land sunk beneath the water to rise no more. And the Corporians went down to death, and the fields and familiars gave up the battle. Neither did they have anywhere to stand, nor did they know how to go to any place in all the heavens, but were lost, crying out for help. And my host hastened in all directions with birth blankets. Look at that. Birth blankets. Because when a person dies, their spirit is birth. So in the Oaspe, your physical death is a spirit birth. So when these people are dying, their spirits are coming out their bodies, and these people got to be prepared to deal with these spirits as they die coming out the corporeal body in panic and fear. So again, my hosts hasten in all directions with their birth blankets. The same way when a baby is born, they put a baby in that blanket, your spirit get put in that spiritual blanket. And receive the Drujas, Fetals, and Isaeans, newborns, in the millions and millions, gathered and deliver them to the fountain of light, where I had provided atmosphere for them. And they were placed within. So great were their numbers that even the gods had scarcely seen anything like it before. So even the gods were shocked when they seen this. They're like, good Lord. And in order to attest before you, O Jehovah, I had them numbered, using the sections of divisions of my gods and goddesses in order to do so. So they actually numbered the actual people. So what I'm showing you right here is that we have an explanation for the flood, the Ring of Fire, right here. See that? We have an explanation for that. So coming back up to this chart right here. So we're showing you that we had an explanation and artifacts and sources to go back to the era of civilization 45,000 years ago. Then we went back 25,000 years ago to the time of the flood and showed evidence in the Pacific Ocean what caused the Ring of Fire. See that? And all this is pre the existence of your God. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's all this is taking place before that. Because your God created the heavens and the earth. Once again, we're going to keep driving that home in 3761 BC. Not even 6,000 years ago. So really and truly, man, there ain't nothing else to talk about after that, family. It ain't nothing else to talk about after that. Give me a one in the chat if y'all getting this understanding, family. Matter of fact, let me see them vortexes. Throw them vortexes in the chat. Throw them vortexes in the chat, family. Let's run the rhythm. You know what I mean? Yes, family, if I run it back. Yes, family. It done no system in order. Me? a vibe out, you know, family. Easy work. So what we showing you is that when you put the biblical timeline of Adam and Eve in history, that's what you're going to come up with. That's what you're going to come up with. You're going to come up with a false narrative of time, or time that these people are supposed to exist in. Put that chart one more time. Uno blood clot daggers. Uno blood clot daggers. Yes, family, make sure to get your bitters. Indeed.
Bittersweet herbals, where the taste is bitter, but the results are sweet. Bittersweetherbals.com.
Run the rhythm.
Bittersweet herbals, where the taste is bitter, but the results are sweet. Bittersweetherbals.com.
Yes, family, make sure to get your bitters. And you done know, Deshaun, easy work in the blood clot. Easy work, Dr. No. So can nobody talk about Adam and Eve existed based off the biblical timeline? Because they would not have existed. Let me pull my share my screen one more time. So now, coming back to the chart real quick. So look, that's it right there. That's it right there. Just erase that. But look, 3761 BC, Adam, Seth, we got all their birth dates and their death dates. From Adam to Noah, we got all they birth and their death dates. Noah would have been 27, because Noah specifically, because Noah's supposed to be the progenitors of Ham, and Ham is supposed to be the progenitors of the Egyptians, but these niggas is already in existence. Narmer is on the scene before Noah. Hold on, let me put the one with Narmer. Where the one with Narmer at? Oh, no, that's the illustration. Let me get the chart. See, when you put them things on the timeline, that changes the narrative. That kills everything. See, I'm here to cripple niggas. You ain't gonna have me in the ring going back and forth. I'm gonna just put you on a timeline and just end everything. They go to timeline. Now let's go to Noah, right? I gotta scratch that right there. Shimham and Japheth. I placed it at the wrong time. That's supposed to be down here. Good eyes, Cosmon. But look though. Look at the time of Noah. Noah is 2765 BC to 1845 BC. That's the length of Noah, if he was a real person. So he would have lived, he would have seen the whole pyramid age. He would have seen when the Israelites came into Egypt, and he would have died during the sojourn of Israel in Egypt. Noah, if Noah was around, he would have visited every last one of these niggas like, stop the war. I'm your great-great-great-great-grandfather, nigga. I'm still alive. Stop the warfare. But look at the birth of Noah and look at the time period of Narmer. 3150 BC is before the birth of Noah. So how can Narmer be a Hamite under Noah when he is born or reigning before Noah is even born? Like, once again, when you put it on the timeline, it kills everything. It kills everything. Look at Enoch. Look at the time period of Enoch. Enoch is from 3229 BC to 2864 BC. 2864 BC. That's the time of Enoch. So Enoch would have lived during the time of Narmer. So when Narmer was unifying Upper and Lower Egypt, Enoch was walking around somewhere. Enoch was walking the earth somewhere when Narmer was uniting Upper and Lower Egypt. Come on now. Let's make it make sense. Let's make it make sense. That's why the timetables of prophecy is dangerous. Because when we put it on the timeline, it ends everything. So if Noah is born in 2795 BC and Narmer is 3150 BC, that means the narrative of Noah's story is false. It can't be true. Noah can't be a person. Shem, Ham, and Japheth cannot be people because they would have lived at a time where they could have been documented in history. If we got Dozier documented in history at 2686 BC, we got Dozier documented from 2686 BC to 2648 BC. If Dozier existed, you think Dozier would have not spoken of Noah? Because if Noah was born in 2795 BC, Noah would have been alive during the days of Dozier. You think Dozier wouldn't have said, yo, let me go ahead and write about my great-grandfather Noah, man. Let me go ahead and put him in the dock. Matter of fact, let me, you know what I mean? Ain't none of these niggas talk about Noah. Ain't none of them talking about nail one of these niggas. So I'm showing you without a shadow of a doubt that the biblical narrative of Adam and Eve, from Adam to Noah, the whole thing is false. And this is what we've been trying to tell you for years, and this is what I've been trying to show you for years, that the false gods gave you a false narrative of creation, a false 7-day story of creation. And then when we place the 7-day creation story in the narrative of Adam and Shem and coming on down the line of the so-called biblical history, we see how it's off. We see how it don't add up. It don't make sense. See that? Look at that. It don't make sense. Look at the birth of Adam, 3761 BC. That's the Nakada period of ancient Egypt. It don't make sense. How can a Shemitic king be ruling during the time of Adam? Huh? How can the king priest of the Anu temple of the Ziggurat be ruling in 3500 BC, a couple hundred years after Adam? And he's supposed to be a Shemite. What are Shemites doing running around the time of Adam? You see, when you start putting in perspective how silly it sounds? Look at this chart. Look at the historicity of what's going on in this chart compared to the literature and the biblical timeline of the same time period, interwoven. And this is the 23rd arc cycle after the creation of our time period. 3761 is the biblical creation, and this is 23 arc cycles after our creation in the Oaspe. See that? So with that, man, that's easy work, man. Ain't no way around that. Ain't no way around this right here. Ain't no way around this. So look at that. Now, if the flood is 2195 BC, look at that. Then after the flood, who was the highlight after the flood? Abraham. And that's when they put Abraham during these time periods and all that. It's off. The whole time period is off, yo. You know what I mean? Exposing that biblical narrative, family. Easy work. You don't know how we do your family. You know what I mean? Yes, family. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I just wanted to come deliver this, showing you, you know what I mean, the real history placed inside with the biblical history to show you the inconsistency of the biblical narrative. And with that, your boy Silah Shalom is up out of here, family. Until next time, peace to the righteous guys and goddesses. Create a gang, and we out of here, family. Like last year.